Yeah, and one thing that I've kind of been taking a peek at is just like Missoula's rotations and Will, feel free to jump in here too. We can just kind of just open this up as a conversation. Um, is just like Missoula is starting to go a little bit more towards two big lineups. The Cornet Porzingis two-man pairing actually has pretty good numbers together. And then any combination really of a two big lineup is starting to look a little bit better. And especially, Richard mentioned trying to catch Cleveland. And if that's the team that we have to face in the playoffs in the Eastern Conference Finals, they're a too big team. You know what I mean? The Milwaukee Bucks, who are playing better basketball, they're a too big team. The only team that's really not, that's one of the elite teams, is the Thunder, right? So like the Thunder actually go small,
Even
but
Greg,
they don't.
even the Magic were playing tonight. I mean,
Right.
they've had a lot of injuries, but they always stay big. That's the one. They play tough and big. That's one thing they will always do.
Right. And then Mizzou's also not afraid to just like see what's going on at the end of the game, and they trying to give the game what it needs. Like Derek wasn't in the closing lineup in the last game. So my kind of theory right now on the Celtics is that they're just a little small. And that was always the concern, with the White and Smart backcourt back when Marcus was still on the team, right? It's just like, do we have enough size? Does it make more sense to have Jalen at the 2, Jason at the 3, and take some of that burden off of Tatum, where he has to rebound 12 to 15 times a game, to like really clean up the boards. So I was just kind of wondering what you guys thought about that, whether it makes sense to tinker even more with the starting lineup, with the rotations, considering that starting lineup is a negative 12 net rating so far in the year. Will, what are your thoughts on that?
I mean, I think right now it's this is where it's tough, right? Because we're in the middle of the season. It's once again, I feel like I saw a clip from Chris Mannix that really made me check myself, where it's like this isn't just coming off of a long season; it's coming off a long 6 seasons or 4 seasons or however you want to look at it. Basically, since the bubble, with the way that seasons have been compacted and how deep the Celtics have gone with the majority of this team, right? Like even since Derek's been here, it's been a championship run. It's been Game 7 of the Eastern Conference Finals. It's been another championship run, and then we're going to throw in the Olympics for 3 of your 6 main rotation guys in there as well. So I'm open to it. I don't know. I think I might stick with this lineup a little bit more, even though I think there is growing frustration with as to why that particular lineup can't get back. Because I think at the end of the day, Greg, and we've talked about this a lot with different iterations of this team, who closes is not the same as who starts. Like that's where I think this conversation gets lost. When people like, I demand that this group starts. Like if the closing doesn't have to be the same, right? The game can dictate, the matchups can dictate who's that starting 5 or who's that closing 5, I should say. So I think I'm open to it. I don't know that I would change it just yet, but I'm certainly getting very close to that area of I think some type of change needs to happen because this team is only fixing things internally. There's no external moves that are really coming that are going to make a major difference. So any changes would be internal. What are your thoughts on that, Richard?
Kind of on the other side. The thing that made the Celtics good last year was the Celtics were who the Celtics were, and everybody else changed. If you change, you lose. Um, I mean, last night, Cleveland and Oklahoma City, everybody thought Cleveland would kill them because they were big or whatever. So Oklahoma City just doubled down with 5 out. They double teamed. They had hands all over the place, and they took that out. Um, to have Oklahoma City go, oh my God, we're playing Cleveland, and to start number 15, he made a couple of threes, and Jay Will, just to combat Cleveland, they would have gotten run off the floor. You gotta be who you are. You can't change to do whatever. I mean, to me, I look at the Celtics always have at least 2 bigs. I mean, because everybody has a perception. I mean, Jason Tatum is 6'10".
Yeah.
I mean, what? I mean, Allen and Mobley are what, 7'6", 6'11". So where they're double big. I mean, it's all fan base the way we look at things. We want this person to do this, we want this person to do that. Just scrap that. You want to win. Um, if you adjust the Celtics to do whatever, Cleveland has those two bigs, but they do whatever they do. I mean, that they, you know, kind of like the Brown and Tatum thing. Oh, that'll never work. I mean, that'll never work because fans who are supposedly smart say that'll never work. And most of the time, like Richard Dreyfuss says, let it ride. They're wrong. Cross that off. The Jays will never win. Cross that off. Cleveland can't win with double bigs. Cross that off. Oklahoma City can't win because they're too small. Cross that off. I mean, you have to be true to who you are. So we have two bigs with either Porzingis and Tatum, Horford and Tatum. But if you take and you go and you put someone like, you go Cornette and Horford, now you've changed your ability to play make, and teams can scheme around that because they now know Tatum is with Horford and Cornette, they know they can scheme around that. Tatum is now out there with those two. Well, where are they going to play make? Because you're not going to get playmaking from the bigs. They do their role very, very, very well, but you've now taken at least a couple of playmakers off the floor. The thing that made the Celtics good and the way we were winning last year was we had a mismatch nightmare in Porzingis and four people who could create. This year with the way teams are defending, they've gotten away from their creations. Holiday's assists are down. I mean, Derek and Drew would have, 10 to 12 assists per game. In this slump, they're not getting that. So that, the team's not shooting well. So maybe that causes some assists to go down. But the flow of the offense, those guys were involved in the middle and they were making passes. Now it seems like those guys are more shooters, and that's not they can make shots, but if they're being driven to be the focal point of shooting, it's not the same as it was last year. So they just have to figure out how teams are playing them and how to get better at getting the same shots that they had last year. Shot profiles, you're just looking at whatever. I mean, last year you could count on 6 or 7 times Sam Hauser would get a wide open three, and his percentages of those wide open threes are extremely high. Mm-hmm. Now he's not, he's getting run off the line. He's coming off screens, looking to shoot as opposed to, he was presented with layups. So once they figure out, how to get that back, I think they'll be quite fine.
Yeah, I like that answer about kind of sticking true to who you are, and that's where to your question. I was like, I think a change at some point might be needed, but I'm reluctant to make that move just yet. I think that's when you get closer to it. It feels a little bit more desperate when you mm-hmm. get to that point, and so we'll still see where this kind of goes from there. But Richard, you brought up that Cleveland OKC game last night. I think their first matchup was one of the games of the year. Last night, not exactly the same thing. OKC really took it to Cleveland. But I am curious to get your thoughts. And I mentioned before, we're recording this on Friday morning. The Celtics are playing the Magic tonight. I think the Magic, especially given all of their injuries, have been one of the most impressive teams throughout the season. To have 2 of your stars go down, and then your third guy, Jalen Suggs, who's in that, Derek White, Marcus Smart, Drew Holiday type mold. He's your third guy who was stepping up and playing phenomenal. He goes down. They get Paolo back, and they still keep finding a way. They're the 5th seed in the East. They're 4 games above 500. I know that this is a young team that's up and coming, but I'm curious, just looking around the league, and take us wherever you want to, Richard. I know that you're watching basketball all the time, not just the Celtics. So who are some teams that have really stood out to you this year and impressed?
Like you said, you got to start with Cleveland and Oklahoma City. They both, Oklahoma City, they stayed true to themselves. Hartenstein gave them a big lift, especially without Chet. You got to look at Cleveland, the way that they're playing. Orlando is good. I mean, from a Celtics perspective, Orlando is a matchup that, for whatever reason, that's not necessarily, I mean, the playoffs are going to basically come down to matchups. So Boston and Cleveland are 1-1. So we don't know which way, 6-1, half dozen to the other, and that could go either way. The Celtics, the way the Knicks play, I think that's conducive for the Celtics to be in an advantageous position. They swept Milwaukee. Indiana, they won last year in the finals, but every game was a dogfight. So Indiana, Orlando, and and the team we're going to see tomorrow, Atlanta. Those are the ones that are kind of on the board, because you don't have to be the best in the East. You just have to be the best in the three matchups that you have in the East. So as it currently looks like, I mean, Cleveland's 1, we're 2. Atlanta's down at the bottom, but they're close. So if Atlanta were to be like a 9th seed going into the playoffs, I could see them winning. Then they would end up getting the 8th seed, because the 9th seed, the best you can do is get the 8th seed. So that would put them against Cleveland. So Cleveland, a third of their losses are who? Atlanta. So that's, it doesn't matter how well Cleveland plays. If Cleveland doesn't do well against Atlanta, that's an issue. And then you've got, so let's see who's coming in for, probably Orlando. So Orlando would then play Cleveland. So the Celtic road would be, somebody who's 7. I think
Miami.
Huh?
Yeah,
Maybe Miami.
Miami, Indiana, somewhere in that range.
Yeah.
Miami would be a better one than, as opposed to Indiana. So, I mean, if we avoid Indiana, we play Miami, okay, with history or whatever, take your chances. Then you either get the Knicks or,
Milwaukee, maybe.
or Milwaukee. So, I mean, those are on paper, those are matchups that are conducive to the Celtics. Cleveland has to play Atlanta. They lose there, then that opens up a whole new different thing. So, it's still a long way to go, but we don't even know where Philadelphia is. But the best Philadelphia can do is 8.
No one knows where Philadelphia is, Richard.
I was gonna say the one team we haven't mentioned is Philadelphia. But Richard, I like what you're saying about just like matchups and the whole idea of styles making fights, and that's kind of like why I was just theorizing like maybe the Celtics could be too small, right? And maybe they need to find some ways to get a little bit more size